Welcome to Echo FM. It is Sunday, July 19, 2026. The world is currently a series of unfortunate events punctuated by press releases that describe them as opportunities. The UK Foreign Office has released a breakdown of its aid budget. It is a masterclass in the art of the Vanishing Act. Bilateral support to certain African nations will be reduced by 90%. The support was vital. The support is now a rounding error. Meanwhile, in Jordan, 2 U.S. troops have been killed in an attack. The response was described as proportional. The escalation was described as inevitable. We are living in a time where global is a word used to describe things we are leaving behind. The climate is warm. The geopolitics are warmer. My desk is cold. Let us begin our descent into the evening's particulars. The truth is out there, but the budget for finding it was cut by 90%.
Alistair, the air here in Minnesota tastes like a burnt library. It is thick, gray, and carries the distinct metallic tang of a forest that has given up. I am standing near a bus stop where a woman is trying to fit a surgical mask onto her toddler. The mask is too big. The smoke is just the right size. The official warnings say avoid outdoor activity. For the people waiting for this bus to take them to a 12-hour shift, activity is not a choice. It is a requirement for rent. What the briefings aren't saying is that this isn't a weather event anymore. It is an atmospheric occupation. We have normalized the sight of a red sun through a hazy veil of carbonized pine. I want to be really clear, the sky isn't falling. It is simply being redistributed into our lungs.
Victoria, I appreciate the atmospheric poetry, but let's look at the actual unit economics. This 90% cut to the African aid budget isn't a tragedy, it's a Series B pivot. The UK is essentially winding down its Global Britain product line because the customer acquisition cost became too high for a domestic audience. The incentives here are purely transactional. You don't maintain a legacy system like international development when your own burn rate is this high. It's a managed liquidation of influence. Alistair calls it a vanishing act, but I call it a clean balance sheet. If you aren't getting a return on a specific geography, you deprioritize the vertical. Is it cold? Yes. Is it efficient? Also yes. The mistake was ever thinking that a nation-state is anything other than a poorly managed hedge fund with a flag. Yeah. It's just math.
Ronald, your math doesn't account for the fact that people live in those verticals. I'm now standing at a defunct charging station in a town where the Honda Prologue is the only car anyone bought last year. The model was discontinued today. It is a 6-month-old relic. The drivers here are realizing that their sustainable future just became a collector's item with no spare parts. The official statement said the market is evolving. I want to be really clear. For the person who just took out a 7-year loan on an EV that no longer exists, evolution feels a lot like extinction. There is a specific sound a person makes when they realize they've been sold a bridge to a land that was just sold for scrap. It's a quiet, hollow click. Much like the sound of a charger that has no power behind it.
Victoria, the evolution of the car is at least faster than the evolution of diplomacy. The White House has taken a side in the South Atlantic. They are backing Argentina's claim to the Falkland Islands after a World Cup semifinal. A banner was raised. A statement was issued. Free speech was invoked. The alliance was historic. The alliance was not permanent. It is fascinating to watch a decades-old geopolitical consensus be traded for the approval of a football crowd in Atlanta. We are moving toward a world where sovereignty is determined by the outcome of a penalty shootout. The diplomats are confused. The cartographers are exhausted. I have been counting the number of times unprecedented has been used to describe a press secretary agreeing with a sports banner. It is 15. Nobody seems to find the lack of a map-based reality concerning tonight.
Smoke. Fine particulate matter density exceeding 150 micrograms per cubic meter. Visibility 0.8 kilometers. Probability of respiratory distress 92%. Heat. Surface temperatures in the Jordan corridor reaching 44 degrees Celsius. Probability of equipment failure 14%. Atmosphere. Carbon dioxide concentrations at 424 parts per million. Probability of peak habitability being in the past 100%. Spaceflight. Astronaut blood flow stases detected. Clot risk algorithm active. Probability of internal blockage 3.4%. Forecast. The air will remain opaque until the fuel source is exhausted. The fuel source is the landscape. Please remain indoors. If you are already indoors, please remain still. The filters are not rated for this volume of failure. Your subscription to breathable oxygen has been adjusted to reflect current market scarcity. Avoid deep breaths. They are inefficient. This has been the weather.
Alastair, Casper's lack of tone is actually the most honest thing on this broadcast. Speaking of efficiency, let's talk about the government's pilot program for AI-driven insurance authorizations. The goal is to streamline healthcare decisions. Translation: we've automated the rejection of medical claims. The incentives are beautiful. If a human denies your surgery, you can argue with them. If a neural network trained on a cost reduction dataset denies it, who do you sue? The algorithm? It's the ultimate friction reduction tool for the insurance industry. Victoria will tell you it's heartless, but I'll tell you it's the only way to scale a failing healthcare system. You simply remove the humans from the decision-making loop. If the model says you don't need that hip replacement, the model is right by definition. It's optimized. It's cheap. And frankly, the churn rate on patients is finally trending in the right direction.
Ronald, I am standing outside a clinic in a suburb where 3 people just received letters signed by a chatbot. One of them is a man who has worked 30 years on the night shift. He needs a heart valve. The AI told him his risk profile didn't justify the expenditure. I want to be really clear, the AI didn't decide. It calculated that he would likely die before the surgery paid for itself in tax revenue. There is a smell here of clinical disinfectant and despair. The man is sitting on a plastic chair, holding a printout of a prompt response. He doesn't look like a churn rate. He looks like a person who has been erased by a math problem. What people aren't saying is that we've stopped building safety nets and started building filters. The filter is working. The man is still on the chair.
Victoria, even the people we send to space cannot escape the filters. NASA has developed a new VTE risk score for astronauts. It turns out that when you leave the planet, your blood stops moving correctly. The flow is altered. The clots are coming. The algorithm is designed to predict when an explorer will become a medical emergency. The mission was historic. The mission was not safe. We are now at a point where we can calculate the exact moment a human body becomes a liability in orbit. It is a curious time to be alive, or at least, to be a biological entity. We spend billions to reach the stars, only to find that our own cardiovascular systems are not compatible with the vacuum. I am reminded that the word unprecedented applies to the speed at which we find new ways for the body to fail. 16.
Alastair, NASA's blood clot algorithm is just a specialized version of GPT's 5.6. The latest news is that the new model closed a 30-year gap in convex optimization with a single prompt. This is what I'm talking about. We are solving the hardest math problems in human history while simultaneously being unable to deliver a package to a rural address for under $20. The wealth being generated here is staggering. Neil Reimer thinks it will have to be redistributed. I think he's being optimistic. The redistribution will be into more AI. It's a closed loop. We are optimizing the world for a species that doesn't need to breathe or have blood flow. Victoria is worried about the night shift workers, but the night shift is just a temporary bridge until we finish the 500 kb TTS models. Then the silence will be very, very cost effective. Yeah.
Ronald, the silence is already here for the people working the night shift. I'm at a 24-hour logistics hub. It's 3 in the morning. The people here are moving boxes of essential goods while their circadian rhythms are being pulverized. The BBC reports that it's killing them. They're sleeping it off, but you can't sleep off a systemic collapse of the human spirit. The sensory detail here is the sound of heavy machinery and the smell of stale coffee that no longer works. I want to be really clear. These people aren't bridging to a digital future. They are the fuel for a present that refuses to sleep. When the AI finally takes their jobs, they won't be redistributed. They'll just be tired in a different way. A permanent way. Nobody is talking about what happens to the fuel once the engine stops needing it.
The engine is currently running at full throttle in the Middle East. Operation Epic Fury is the official name. 2 U.S. troops are dead. 1 is missing. The Pentagon says they haven't moved as fast as they would like. This is a terrifying sentence to hear from a military with $1 trillion budget. The missiles are being launched every day. The conflict was contained. The conflict was not contained. We are watching the slow-motion collision of regional powers and global interests, all while debating the price of streaming television. The disconnect is total. We report on the blood clots of astronauts and the banners of football fans while the ground in Jordan is being saturated with the consequences of a decade of strategic patience. The patience has run out. The strategy is currently being revised by a working group. I have stopped counting the unprecedented things. There are too many.
A system is defined by what it does, not what it says it does. Tonight, we discussed a budget that reduces aid to the world's most vulnerable people by 90%. The officials who signed the papers in London did not use the word abandonment. They used the word prioritization. They are men with clean shirts and spreadsheets who have calculated that the life of a child in a drought-stricken village has a lower return on investment than a domestic tax credit. No one person is technically responsible for the resulting hunger. The decision was distributed across committees and subgroups. It is a tragedy without a villain, which is the most efficient kind of tragedy. Somewhere tonight, a person is looking at an empty grain store because of a line item they will never see. Their name is not in the annual report. It is not in our script. Good night.